patch of mangroves so close to Cairns, right at the doorstep of the airport. It's the first thing you see when you land. People tend to drive straight past, but our people, this was a very important resource. Our traditional country is from Cairns to Port Douglas. We're rainforest people, coastal people, so the land and sea is really important to us. And where we're standing today is on our country. This area is part of the Urukandji country.
Where we're standing right now is on a boardwalk that runs through a small part of the 350 hectares of land we have reserved at the airport. Provides a really important access point to an amazing piece of the natural environment, and we're so fortunate to have it so close to the city and so close to the airport. Cairns Airport first opened in its current location in 1936. It goes without saying it as an intersection point and gateway to both the Great Barrier Reef, World Heritage Area, and the Daintree Rainforest. And I was unaware until I started this role how important mangroves are as a source of breeding for fish for the Great Barrier Reef. We also have threatened species, particularly birds.
So we do have threatened species around in the mangroves and on the edges of the mangroves, especially on the sand ridges here around the seas. Being a mangrove ecosystem and wetland, it provides a nursery ground for all these animals.
We feel an obligation to not only protect the natural environment, but to do our part to reduce our impact and also helping maintain and preserve the pristine environment that people literally come here to see. So as our thinking around protecting the environment has evolved, we saw an opportunity with a recent refinancing of the business to undertake what is actually a groundbreaking activity, which is to include biodiversity targets in our sustainability linked loan, which commits us as a company to following through on actions. We've structured our financing to not only include goals which are around reducing our emissions and our footprint, but to actively encourage the regeneration of biodiversity in this area.
So Westpac acted as joint sustainability coordinator for this transaction. That means working or partnering with North Queensland airports to understand their sustainability strategy and then setting the right targets that really promote ambitious change year on year from now through the full facility. North Queensland Airport looks to reduce its Scope 1, 2 and controllable Scope 3 emissions through this facility. That then links really nicely as well to their focus on natural capital and biodiversity and enhancing the land. And that second KPI links then really nicely to the third around Indigenous engagement.
So we've been working at Cairns Airport with the Urukandji Land and Sea Ranger program for 7 or 8 years now. As we've extended that partnership, we saw an opportunity to formally bring it together with this sustainability linked loan and our refinancing, which both parties are going to work to drive through the biodiversity enhancement. They have skills and knowledge of their traditional land that we don't have, so they're going to play a really important role in the restoration of this habitat and in the programs that we'll put in place to look after threatened species.
The environmental section of the airport is very dedicated to working with traditional owners, and to be invited and asked about doing other projects like fish surveys, like the blue carbon, it's not just being asked, it's asking us to partner up with them. And that makes a big difference for us because now we're in a position to sit down and say, this is how we'd like to have it done.
If we don't protect these habitats, we're going to lose them forever. You know, we're bringing in centuries of knowledge with Western science and best practice to manage a place that needs that help. You know, especially when we've got issues like climate change that's beyond one's control. We can only pull together all our resources, expertise to manage a place like this and threatened species. And so we definitely need to bring these knowledge systems together.
Many of the things that we now sort of refer to as ESG, which is kind of new thinking for the corporate world, are the traditional values that the traditional owners of this land have always maintained. Those are all values that align naturally. So we formed this natural partnership, and we saw the opportunity with restoring these mangroves to work together to enhance the economic well-being of the traditional owners while protecting their country and working together.
You know, the more that we get to spend as traditional owners in these mangroves, the more we learn about this part of the country and how special it is, not just to the community, but to our people.